Okay, let's continue with our presentations after an perfect exercise. Now we are going to talk about design professionalism because Johnathon Strebly is next on stage. As president of the International Council of Design, Johnathon brings decades of experience and involvement in the applied arts, encouraging growth and change in creative industries. He just finished working as a chief of staff for indigenous nation, and that would be kind of strange sentence in Lithuania. But since Jonathan comes from Vancouver, Canada, and he came really from a faraway place just for this occasion, so we are very thankful. He has been working at all levels of government in the recent years, and he's bringing policy and design together. So a guest from a faraway country, Jonathan Strebly, Vancouver, Canada. Please, a round of applause for Jonathan.
Thank you.
Whew. Got your breath back?
Is this on? There we go. Well, I usually do a couple of jumping jacks before I start speaking, but never a complete dance routine. So you'll excuse me if I feel a little warm. How are you all feeling for that? It's nice, eh? It was fun. Okay, so first of all, hello. I am literally catching my breath before and after shaving. So, hello. It's a great pleasure to be here, and I really want to take a moment to thank our hosts, Kaunas 2022, the European Capital of Culture, and our friends at LDA, the Lithuanian Design Association. I really appreciate the invitation to be here at this event to be able to share today. It is an honor and a privilege to be able to participate with my esteemed colleagues, whom you're hearing from today, as we all have vital roles to play as organizations to help our industry. Our communities and our world benefit through design, and that's why we're here. On behalf of the International Council of Design, I'd like to thank all of you who have taken the time and effort to be here today. No one of us can individually be the change our world needs right now, but collectively, collaboratively, and by being present and listening, can we learn and act on what our next steps should be as designers, as design professionals, and as professional design organizations. Still catching my breath. So, what is design professionalism? Professionals strive to achieve the best, most robust possible outcomes rather than settle for the minimum required. What we call being a professional is a combination of a commitment to a high standard of performance and integrity with a perspective on the needs of individuals as well as society at large. To expand on Friedson's idea here, the professional has a responsibility to the societies they live in that goes beyond immediate financial remuneration. Professionalism is the difference between doing something for immediate personal gain or gratification, regardless of the impact on others, and doing something because it is right and builds long term confidence in the profession. The initial step towards professionalism is self awareness and self definition. Only once our community of practitioners adopts a common approach can the wider society be expected to acknowledge the professional standing of the discipline. And only at that point can the discipline benefit from enhanced respect, status, and influence. The common cause required for the establishment of professional standing requires structured community recognition, a professional association. The International Council of Design. Oh, I'm sorry. Missed that last slide. You had a very brief look at Friedson's quote there. All right, you got it? Instagram, got it? Picture memorized? Perfect. The International Council of Design, or ICoD, is the world's largest organization representing professional designers across the spectrum of design disciplines. It is composed of national professional designer associations, design universities, and governmental design promotional entities. As with any design advocacy organization, sharing and promoting the value of design also requires goals and principles. Through active engagement with our members at ICoD events, such as our regional and annual meetings, as well as special meetings involving leaders and organizers of design weeks, design museums, and UNESCO cities of design, we continue to evolve our goals and principles with our design communities. Considering the diversity within our audience today, I would like to share more about the International Council of Design and our history as a design organization through the work we do with our members in facilitating and crafting the dialogue and the work needed to design a better world. A particularly relevant project recently developed with our members is the ICoD Professional Code of Conduct for Designers document. It's a baseline code of professional conduct and best practices document that an organization can put to immediate use or expand upon to author their own document suited to their particular social, economic, and cultural attributes. We did this in conjunction with many of our member organizations who have developed codes of conduct, best practice documents, and manifestos ranging from simple and concise to detailed and focused on specific disciplines of design. Ultimately, we produced a shared understanding and collective conversation on design valuable, and principles amongst our member organizations who are focused on design value, advocacy, education, production, and professionalism. The Industrial Revolution of the 18th century required the development of new areas of expertise. First, to discover how to utilize the new manufacturing capacities resulting from advances in application of energy and manipulation of materials, and then to develop the means to merchandise the resulting new products to a growing urban middle class. Producers turned to craftsmen and artisans, wood and metal workers, later to be recognized as product designers, to craft new products, and to calligraphers and printers, later to be recognized as graphic and communication designers, to develop the tools of merchandising like packaging, corporate identity, and mass media adorned by advertising. In the 18th and 19th centuries, these practitioners were effectively servants of producers interested in the rapid expansion of consumption. These practitioners were not considered and did not see themselves as professionals. The designation designer appeared only late in the 19th century. Not unrelated, during this time, attention began to be addressed to the social, environmental, and cultural implications of industrialization and increasing consumption. Environmental degradation, urban squalor, and social tensions, to name but a few of the byproducts of industrialization. Only in the middle of the 20th century did designer communities take the first steps in defining themselves as a distinct profession by establishing representative organizations. At first, discipline specific and local in scope. And in the 1960s, seeking greater leverage, national designer associations banded together to establish international designer organizations. While other professions, doctors, lawyers, have had the benefit of many centuries of collective action to develop well articulated ethical canons and codes of conduct, contributing to their elevated social and financial status, designers have yet to develop an equally robust professional canon. Founded in London in 1963, ICoD began as ICoGrada, the International Council of Graphic Design Associations. ICoGrada represented professional graphic design organizations worldwide, an expert body promoting the graphic design profession. Collaborations with international magazines, standardization bodies, and educational institutions extended the Council's influence, and in 1972, ICoGrada was granted consultative status with UNESCO. Over the decades, ICoGrada's reach became increasingly international, accepting new members from Latin America, Eastern Europe, Africa, and Asia. ICoGrada congresses led the design discourse, publishing key resources, the Design Code of Ethics and the academic journal Ecographic. The Best Practices Document Library, the journal Iridescent, and the ICoGrada Education Manifesto were some of the early ICoGrada publications. Our membership also became increasingly multidisciplinary, and in 2014, ICoGrada became the International Council of Design. The Council's mission is to elevate the value and the global standards of all design disciplines and improve the situation for individual designers. We connect and engage with governments, other NGOs, the design industry, and corporate partners. Today, the Council represents and acts as a connector between around 122 member organizations in 55 countries. Our international meetings discuss government design policy, the measurement of design metrics, codes of professional practice, the future of the design profession, and the role of the designer in society. We advocate for a global design agenda, working closely with civil society organizations representing design, architecture, urban planning, design research, and design education. In October of 2017, ICoD was one of three international organizations who formed a steering committee which organized the first convening of the design community as represented by 22 international organizations representing professional urban planners, architects, landscape architects, and designers from over 90 countries. These organizations gathered to affirm the fundamental role of design in creating and shaping the world now and in the future. The Design Declaration Summit concluded with the ratification of the first design declaration, the Montreal Design Declaration, in the presence of international organizations representing public, private, and civil sectors of society concerned with design or impacted by design. The declaration recognizes the need for strategic leadership on design matters at local, regional, national, and international levels, and the need for governance models, political agendas, and policy to take design into account. It acknowledges the fundamental and critical role of design to create a world that is environmentally sustainable, economically viable, socially equitable, and culturally diverse. So let's get back to those principles. Recognize the increasingly influential roles played by designers in the 21st century against a backdrop of economic, environmental, social, and cultural challenges caused by unleashed consumption. We realize the urgent need for the design community to reevaluate our roles and responsibilities. Designers must redefine the meaning of being a professional designer. We must define what it means. We must define what it means to be a design professional, articulate our obligations and responsibilities, and further develop our ethical canon and professional standards of conduct. As influential as we are in creating modern messages, products, spaces, and services, so are we complicit in the negative impacts of modern consumption. To establish a global appreciation of design professionalism, a robust ethical design culture is required for the benefit of our communities and to enable design to achieve its potential to improve the quality of life for all. Such an effort can only be conducted by the entire network community of designers, practitioners, and educators in a considered and structured process. The first step requires a bold, honest, in-depth discussion amongst designers and design organizations to define our profession and ourselves as organizations, free of the shackles of past conceptions and practices. We must then convey a newly articulated approach to others, producers and service providers, consumers and end users of design, government, and others, in order to ensure a new design environment and a new form of rational consumption. The following slides are a small sample of ICoD principles for designers that we contribute to inspire and invigorate the discussion. We recognize that designers in different countries work in different environments and cultural contexts that must allow for local variation. But we also know that design is very much a global activity and that we share a great deal. These principles reflect the 2017 Montreal Design Declaration. In particular, the ICoD principles for designers are based on the following excerpts from the Design Declaration. Design is the application of intent, the process through which we create the material, spatial, visual, and experiential environments in a world made ever more malleable by advances in technology and materials, and increasingly vulnerable to the effects of unleashed global development. We acknowledge the fundamental and critical role of design to create a world that is environmentally sustainable, economically viable, socially equitable, and culturally diverse. Designers are professionals who, by education, outlook, and experience, are capable of developing new interdisciplinary solutions to improve quality of life. Designers, too long the servants of producers, better serve humanity as the ambassadors of the end users, the citizens of the world. Designers have the capacities to deliver enormous benefits through provision of good design, just as they have the capacity to do great damage through bad design. Every design decision, large or small in size, local or international in context. I just finished my workout now, finally calmed down. Uh, Large or small in size, local or international in context, impacts economically, environmentally, culturally, and socially. The International Council of Design believes that the professional designer will balance all these parameters in developing viable design solutions, considering both individual needs and community needs. The professional designer is required to maintain a level of expertise and practice that ensures results that are beneficial to both direct and indirect users of their designs and that are not harmful to people or the planet. Such expertise requires a proper educational foundation in design and many associated subjects, the adoption of sophisticated methodologies, and a structured effort to maintain currency through lifelong learning of a broad spectrum of topics. Through our ICoD member engagement and facilitated dialogue, new ways of strengthening the design education to commercial industry relationship. What is called being a professional in the field of design is a combination of three elements: the commitments to a high standard of professional performance, ensuring personal capacities to provide high standard designing. This is based on initial and ongoing education and on a professional approach, mindset, and outlook. A high standard of professional conduct, integrity, honesty, transparency. This relates to ethical practices and relationships with clients, collaborators, and colleagues. A high standard of professional responsibility to society. This relates to professional obligations to the greater community, humanity, and the planet. The reputation of the design profession stands on the individual performance of all designers. Designers have a clear responsibility to their peers to publicly uphold the values of the profession as representatives thereof, and to maintain a high level of standard at all times to positively affect perception of the profession. Since the Industrial Revolution spawned the current culture of consumption, the triangular relationship between designers, producers, and the end users has been dominated by the producers. Motivated by the desire for quick profit, producers determined what would be produced, designed, and how these products would be marketed, more designed. This domination largely defined modern culture, markets, and current visual, material, and spatial and experiential environments. Likewise, this culture of consumption has resulted in environmental degradation and cultural and social stress. Designers are complicit in all these developments. The professional designer serves better by inverting the triangular relationship in order to achieve a culture of rational consumption motivated by intelligent utilization of resources and in place of immediate profit. Designers should lead by representing the best interests of the end users, designing improved products, services, spatial environments, and experiences of long term value, friendly to the natural world. These designs of enhanced value not only better serve our communities and the planet, but are also of increased worth to producers. In this way, design professionals also enhance their own standing and economic viability. Designers have the ability to create more rational consumption based on economic viability, environmental sustainability, social equity, and cultural diversity. You're hearing an echo of those four again and again and again. Please keep them in mind. Therefore, designers also have the responsibility to improve quality of life and well being, considering these bottom line four ideas. So, how does design professionalism help our industry and community to do these things? It all starts with values, goals, and principles. Environmental, designers are responsible for implementing a rational utilization of materials, manufacturing processes, energy usage, recyclability, and reusability by maintaining a critical understanding of the science and technologies necessary to create designs that minimize environmental impact. Designers should be aware of the whole life cycle of their designs. Good design should respect the particular needs of all. This includes people with mobility challenges, the elderly, people with special needs, children, new immigrants, or people with language barriers, different genders, etc. We must strive to ensure accessibility to all. Diversity should be celebrated. However, the designer should be careful not to attempt to interpret cultures that are not their own, as this may result in cultural appropriation or cultural misappropriation. Good design reflects substantial efforts and specific methodologies to minimize harm. Designers have a responsibility for the safety of not only the end user of these deliverables, but also for the multiple direct and indirect impacts of the designs through all stages of production, use, and afterlife. Current technologies based on data collection and harvesting make possible manipulation and raise important privacy questions. Designers are well positioned to ensure that proper standards are introduced to their designs early in the process. It is the responsibility of designers to convey the value of good designs to producers, users, governments, and the general public. They should be active advocates to show the potential of good design to address issues of health and safety, quality of life, environmental sustainability, inclusivity, accessibility, cultural diversity, and more. Designers should be advocates for rational consumption. Maintain high professional standards and levels of competence is but one element of being a design professional. The reputation of the design profession stands on the individual performance of all designers. It is a professional responsibility to maintain a high level at all times to avoid negatively affecting the perception of the profession. Support your local organization and design infrastructure. Designers should participate in advocacy, mentorship, judging design competitions, and other design industry and community initiatives. And humility. It is easy to fall in love with our ideas, but we do not design for our own pleasure. Good design comes from the ability to accept criticism, be open minded, work in teams, and listen. Really listen. In closing, and as mentioned earlier, the design professions were born at the outbreak of the Industrial Revolution to serve the needs of factory owners. Designers were the servants of the producers, charged with increasing short term consumption, without regard to any long term consequences. And so it has been since the beginning. It has come time to change the relationship between producers, designers, and end users. Instead of being the servants of producers, we believe that designers better serve by being the ambassadors of the end users, using their capacities to better respect long term needs, cultural heritage, and the environment. Everyone in this room has a role to play in this change, and you are the ones to set the tone for the future of design. Keep observing, keep researching, keep your path forward focused on ensuring our world is a better place to live. This is what practicing design professionalism looks, feels, and sounds like. Achu, thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. So, well, the ambassadors of end users. What do you think about this manifesto? Anyone has a question or a remark? Yes, please, Ingrid. Yes, a microphone.
I'm Ingrid. Well, you will see me later. And I'm really quite impressed. My God. First of all, by you and your voice and all. But I think that also what you're saying is yeah, so important to know for everyone in the world, also the educational institutions. I wonder whether you collaborate with Cumulus, for instance. So how are we going to convey all these very important kind of principles for design to everyone? I mean, we are here a small audience.
Great question. So, what I heard was how do we actually get these international organizations with very similar values and understanding of what our role is? And also, how do we engage the design community that serves the people in the general public and do that top down and bottom up? I don't know. However, if we knew that, we wouldn't be having these discussions now. If you were in the workshop earlier, I think one thing that was quite prevalent is that we understood that without dialogue, we're missing the most important part of the design process. So I would suggest that all of us have experienced a bit of a hiatus in meeting, convening, collaborating, co creating, coming together. And we're starting to feel the ripple of that return here today. So the answer is to ensure that we are actually making it a mandate to reach out to one another, to remember what it's like to feel siloed and alone, and to remind ourselves when we're having these cross pollinated discussions is that we all have a very similar baseline of purpose, reason, and benefit. This isn't this is hard work and it's worth it. But it's hard work being done by others, which we all know that when we share the work and the load, it's easier. So the specific process, there's many ways to approach that. My challenge would be is that not only do we bring that to our organization, but every organization should be asking, how do we engage with other organizations so that we can all benefit the greater good of the world we live in?
Thank you, Ingrid. Any more questions? Yes, we have one on that side. Any more questions? Who wants to ask next? Okay, here. So, Algirdas.
Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan, for a very interesting and meaningful uh, presentation. And I just not question, but it's remark for Lithuanian public who is here. We have Lithuanian translation of Montreal Design
Mhm.
Declaration. So if someone needs all this uh, uh, wisdom which David today presented, you can go to lda.lt, Elgesio Codexes, and you can get Lithuanian version of Codex. And thank you, David, once more.
Elgerdis, or should I call you Gediminas, since you got my name wrong? Uh, ever since I grew the beard, I've been being called David, which also is a reminder. There's a thank you slide at the end. I'd like to sincerely acknowledge and be extremely grateful to the 2019 to 22 International Council of Design Board, David Grossman, Rob Peters, and especially to our managing director, Anna Masuda, sorry, our director general. So through evolution and understanding the greater roles we can play. So I'm eternally grateful. A lot of this content was theirs, our conversations and our continued conversations with our members. So I'm eternally grateful. So Algirdas, thank you for the reminder. Not only the Montreal Design Declaration, but the Code of Conduct is readily available to everyone. Okay, so please, I appreciate your feedback on it.
Thank you.
So earlier today from Yurate, we heard a beautiful quote. She says, we need to remember that design is not a style, it's a process.
Mhm.
So, what I maybe didn't understand very clearly, what was the process of coming to this code of ethics? I'm very curious. How did you define it?
Great question. Yeah. I mean, we're very fortunate that within our membership, we have a number of members that already have some form of code of conduct, best practices document, code of ethics. And one of the countries is actually my country, Canada, where we have three design organizations that are members of ICoD, and each had their own code of conduct and baseline of best practices. And through this dialogue, we actually brought our three organizations together to come up with a national code of ethics and best practices document, which is just but one document of our members that we reached out to. And so through sharing of those documentation, going through it and picking out the things that were specific to region, but going down to baseline of professionalism through some form of universality, we were able to redefine what that baseline code would be. And the intention of that code is that it's yours, like it is open source. It's yours to take as a starting point or an endpoint, depending on where you are in your journey of professionalism, of ethical process, or to add your own regional, cultural, environmental, whatever elements you need to add to make it yours, more specific, or discipline of design. It's there for that. So the process was really to look at what existed, to challenge what exists to be better, to take the better products together and get to where we are now. It by no means intends to be better than anything else, but it is a form of a large discussion and dialogue, a convening, a challenging these principles, and a result which we have right now, which we're very proud of. It's one of the greatest products we did in our last term.
Thank you. Yeah, two more questions. Yeah.
One, uh, how do you see the relationship of design with the other disciplines like social sciences and humanities, architecture, urban planning? What's the role of design in the ecosystem of solving cities challenges, for instance, in relation with other disciplines?
Don't you love hard questions that expect easy answers?
No, it
I,
can be
I'd, li-
also a
I'd, li- I'd,
discussion.
it's a great question, and I'd love to answer it with an example. So one of the roles I've had was a design director with an architecture and design firm, and the intention, my role was facilitate the building of the language between interdisciplinary practice, whether it was environmental, urban planning, landscape, architecture, wayfinding, graphic design. We were doing all elements, and when you have that opportunity to do that, and that's where you need to remind yourselves, wherever you're at in your design career, you're doing something tactile at a certain point, and then it becomes, well, why am I doing this? And then you question the why of the why. Then it's conceptual, then it's strategic, and then it's research, and then it's all those things that keeps going further and further. And we realize that the most valuable component of design is that dialogue in that space, and it's not the artifact. It's getting to that space. So my answer to your question is, when you have an opportunity to convene with other disciplines, you take advantage of it. You're respectful. You listen. You take the time to learn why that discipline views things the way they do, and you find a common language. When I was asked to describe my role, also the role of like, how does a design director become chief of staff of a government? But it's the greatest service and system design project I ever worked on. And my job was to facilitate the multiple languages coming together, the language of discipline, and to be that Rosetta Stone that knew enough to be dangerous in each of those, to bring them together with a common understanding. It's not always immediately successful, but you create the platform of bringing them together. So, to summarize, the relationship of cross disciplinary practice requires listening, engagement, and constant engagement, not project based, like, oh, we should bring in an architect on this, oh, we should bring in an experiential design, to be constantly part of the larger conversation and to create forums for those conversations to exist.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but we are going to have a coffee break soon, so maybe we can ask the Jonathan directly. So a round of applause for Jonathan and
Thank you.
professional
Thank
design.
you.
Thank you.